Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Ann Levy. I am the Senior Program Manager at the Center for Faculty Development at Mass General Hospital. And today I am delighted to welcome with me Dr. Ann B. Young to have an interview with her about her transition to retirement and what she has been doing since. I'm going to start with a quick introduction so you know whom you are listening to when she speaks. Ann B. Young, an MD and PhD, is a researcher and clinician whose work at the bench and bedside has concentrated on neurotransmitter systems in the basal ganglia and their role in Huntington's, Alzheimer's, and Parkinson's diseases. Dr. Young was recruited to Mass General in 1991 from the University of Michigan, where she had held the rank of full professor. At MGH, she was named Chief of the Neurology Service and Julianne Dorn Professor of Neurology at Harvard Medical School. She stepped down from her position as chief in May 2012. Along with her late husband, John B. Penny Jr., MD, Dr. Young first conceptualized a model of the functional anatomy of the basal ganglia that has been termed the classical model. She spearheaded an effort at MGH to accelerate the discovery of effective therapeutics for neurodegenerative diseases. Dr. Young is a member of the scientific advisory boards of several voluntary organizations and the past president of the American Neurological Association and the Society for Neuroscience. She holds membership in both the Institute of Medicine, IOM, and the very prestigious American Academy of Arts and Sciences, AAAS. And she's also a member of the Royal College of Physicians in England. She's been the recipient of many awards and honors for her work. In June 2015, she received an honorary membership award, which recognizes individuals who have made extraordinary contributions to the field of movement disorders or otherwise to the Movement Disorder Society. I will stop there, although I could go on and say hello to you, Ann, another Ann with an E, which always makes me very happy. And I want to start off with you telling the story that you told me, the beautiful story with sad components, but wonderful components that come out of it, of you and your first husband's reflections when you were younger on when you would retire and how that played out.
Yes. The two of us worked together our entire careers. He was a neuroanatomist and looked very carefully at the areas of the brain that were affected in the experiments that we did. And I was the expert on neurotransmitter pharmacology and drug action. And between the two of us, we did a lot of work mapping areas of the basal ganglia and also looking in postmortem human brain for changes that occur. But over time, we were always frustrated by the fact that we had to get a considerable amount of our support from grants. And that was always a challenge. And it was often a time when your grants would get turned down, and that would be frustrating. And so we looked forward to the time when we didn't have to write another grant. When would we be able to write the last grant before retiring? And we figured that we could probably do the last grant if it ended when we were 59. But then we said, if we get to 59 and we want to write another grant, then, well, we can. And that was sort of our way of thinking about it. And the only sad part is he died when he was 51. So then it was up to me in a way, how was I going to play it? And I decided that over the years after he died, we had been such a research pair together, I would have to say, that I couldn't really recreate it. That was not going to be able to happen. So I saw a sunset to it. And I said to myself, I certainly shouldn't have a lab if I'm just doing sort of whole ham science or, using resources that the junior people could use more effectively. And I actually thought at that point in my career, that would be the case. And so I retired when I was 64. And that was a perfect time. I had sort of gotten the research and time such that the graduate students and the postdocs would be able to graduate easily, and by that time, and that there were people in place to take over the space and other things. And of course, there was going to be a new chair. And it's always nice for a new chair to have some resources to give out too. So I thought those were good things. I thought it was a positive thing to know.
I remember you telling me that you had always held to the belief that you shouldn't work too long and that a time would come to give up your lab space and leadership roles to let others step in and step up, which I think makes you such a role model in that area. What were your next steps? What did you do I know you didn't fully retire when you gave up your chair. How did you move towards fuller retirement?
Right. Well, so the first thing I did after 2012, I gave up my lab, and then I kept seeing patients until 2015. And I had probably about 100 patients I followed, and people with Parkinson's and Huntington's disease mostly, but also other movement disorders such as tremors or dystonia. And I'd grown to know them really well. One of the wonderful things about neurology as a subspecialty is that in a way similar to medicine, although I used to see my patients more frequently than they would see their PCPs, but you get a real continuity over time for the people and their families and how best you can make their lives. So that was very rewarding. But then my secretary decided to retire in 2015. And we were a pair. I couldn't get the appointments right. So I gave it up. And then by that time, actually, I had met my second husband and gotten married. And he was not a scientist in any way. So he and I, though, moved up here to New Hampshire, and we enjoy it up here, right on a lake. And so we can swim and boat, and in the wintertime, trudge through the snow or try to shovel it if it's big, deep snows. And what I've done was that I was fortunate enough to inherit what turned out at the time to be $2 million from my mother when she died. And that was a lot of money. I mean, so I said, I'm not sure I need all that money now. But actually, my parents had told me about this charitable annuity thing. And so I was fundraising with Sean Fitzgibbons, one of our development people. We were going over to meet some people in New York State. And all along the ride, I was bugging him about what kind of things the hospital had for things like gift annuities. So by the end of the trip, I was ready to give $1 million to the hospital.
Oh, how generous.
And I thought to myself, this is the most fun thing I've ever done. And so I really enjoyed it. I still have a very nice picture of, me giving the check to Torchiana and Slavin, and I ripped the check out of my personal checkbook. So then I felt like this is so much fun. I bet I could do this as some. I had worked with Sean and Krista McCabe on some fundraising, but now I could actually say, I believe in this so much. I contributed to it, and I've just loved getting together with donors and young faculty members who need, say, money for a fellowship or early experiments, or if we can, a endowment of some sort. Any of those things are wonderful as far as I'm concerned. And I have enjoyed my time doing that, and it keeps me up to date to a certain extent because I hear the science going on in the laboratories. I also do a little work with one of the Huntington's disease organizations, and I'm also writing a book. So yeah.
Wow, I want to get back to your book in a second, but I just want to point out how beautifully you transformed a frustration that you and your first husband felt through the years of scrambling for grant money and wondering, why is this always such a trial and worry and tribulation? And the idea of being able to reach out to donors, knowing what young faculty need and the exciting science they are undertaking is such another example of miraculous pairing that can lead to beautiful results. So that's just amazing. Tell us a little about your book.
Oh, well, after my husband died, I started writing down various stories of adventures that we had had together. And, it developed and it developed, but then eventually it became like a 300-page concoction. And I let a couple people read it, and they said, geez, you need a fair amount of work, but this could be a book. So I've been working now for a year on putting a good book proposal together, because you're never going to get a book published if you don't have an agent, and you won't have an agent unless you have a proposal. Last week, I sent the proposal to 5 agents, and on Friday morning, one of the agents wrote back and said, this resonates with me in so many ways.
How exciting
to take it on.
Now, on a different note, I think I know something about you that perhaps many people don't, that I think is just hysterical, that you actually attended, if I am not incorrect, a Sturgis motorcycle rally in South Dakota.
Yes, I did. I did indeed. That's my second husband. So my second husband turns out to be a high school boyfriend of mine. We actually met in 8th grade, and we actually got to know each other pretty well in 8th grade. But then he went off and did his own thing after high school. He actually joined the Marines. This is the Vietnam War,
Oh my
everybody
goodness.
going over to get killed. Nobody in my class would volunteer except for him. He did. And he signed up to be in the Marines. He went off. And then after that, he finished the University of Wisconsin and became a law officer at the University of Wisconsin.
Oh my goodness.
Then retired very early. He retired the same time I came to Mass General to be chief. Okay. These cops, they can do these things. So, but he loved motorcycles. So every year he went out to Sturgis and he said, "Won't you come with me?" And I said, "Well, what is it?" And he told me it was the biggest motorcycle rally in the country, practically in the world. So we went out. We trailered the bike out. I said, "I'm not riding the motorcycle all the way from, Wisconsin at the time to South Dakota." So didn't do that. But we got out there and we saw the 750,000 motorcycles.
Oh my gosh. I hope you were wearing earplugs the whole time.
Oh my God, the decibels were just continual engines roaring around. And then you'd walk into town and, oh my God, the display of different motorcycles. They were almost all Harleys, but very variable. And and we had a good time. We had a good time. I don't know that I'd go out there much again, but yes, we had a good time.
That is just such an amazing adventure, highly unusual, and I'm sure totally worth it.
Well,
But
I can say that my two daughters were shocked and said, "Mom, you're a neurologist. You can't go riding motorcycles. You're out of your mind." And it's true, of course. I had told them that they better not ever ride a motorcycle.
yep,
So had to eat my words.
you did, and you did it. And that doesn't, as you say, it doesn't mean you have to do it every year. But
No.
so let me ask you this to wrap up this wonderful conversation. What do you want fellow faculty at Mass General to know most about the transition to retirement, to think about, to consider, to look forward to, whatever? What kind of message do you have for them?
Well, I guess I would transition maybe in some steps, maybe not just go from 100 to 0 all at once, but maybe start by putting more responsibility on, or starting to peel off sections of your laboratory, working maybe in smaller space, getting prepared for your grants to end at a certain time, and how your students and postdocs would end. And then at the same time, finding the things that you have fun doing, reading, watching old movies, writing. I love to swim and take walks. We have a nice dog. And so, yeah, I don't have any trouble filling my time. And in fact, if anything, I sometimes wonder if it's too full, but of course I know it's not.
Thank you so much for sharing your story and your time, Anne. This is wonderful, and all best wishes to you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.